Okay, on to the next switch, lite, and the problem it has is it's not, well, first of all, it's not charging, but let me just show you the screenshot the customer sent me. It was showing the error code 21010001, and that's nearly always to do with the M9 chip, charging chip, or it could be a short caused by a dodgy charging port. Now that's just that's the screenshot she sent me, 2101. Obviously I can't see that now because the battery's so flat that it won't show me anything. If I try and turn it on, it'll just show that first boot screen and then it'll go to a flat battery. And if you see, hold on, let me check the charging port here. There's no obvious damage in the charging port, so I feel confident enough that I can plug this in without doing any real damage. So if I plug in my charging cable, it doesn't even activate the charger, which means it's not getting the signal it needs from that switch, from that charging chip. So there's definitely a problem with something on the motherboard anyway. Whether that happens to be the charging port or not, I have a feeling it will be the M9 chip, but we'll check all that when we get this open. Now I'm just going to skip through the process of opening this because there's plenty of videos out there. I've even had videos of my own where I've opened these. Not a dedicated video, but there's other videos down on my page that I've opened these and showed the process of it when I was changing other charging ports and screens, etc. So I'm just going to skip through the opening teardown process here and just get right into it. Now with that heat shield off, there's not a lot we can check here to do with this M9 chip and the main power rail because it's the fuse and the chip are on the other side of the board. So I'm going to need to go ahead and strip this down and take this motherboard out. Again, I'm just going to skip through that because it's on my page on another video. But again, if people want this, I can make a separate video showing just the teardown. But for now, I'm just going to skip through it all. Just going to clean this thermal paste off so I can flip it over without making everything wild messy. Okay, so on the other side of this board we have a charging port. We have a little fuse there that we can check to see if it's shorted. And this chip here, this is the main charging chip that I was talking about, the M9 chip. So I'm going to go ahead and test that as well. I'm just going to zoom in here so you can see a bit better what I'm doing. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is check this fuse to see if it's shorted to ground, and if it's not, just to see if it's still good enough that it's actually letting power through. So I'm just going to get my wee fine probes on the end of my multimeter. Okay, so I'm going to have one probe on ground, and this is in beep mode here, so if it notices, if it touches and the multimeter senses a very low resistance, it'll beep to tell me it's short. Okay, so that fuse isn't shorted to ground now. Is it still good? Yeah, the fuse is still good. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test the capacitors around this M9 chip to see is any of them shorted to ground on both sides, which they shouldn't be. It should only be on one side, and this side is not facing the chip. So that one's shorted on one side, just fine. Alright, this one here is shorted on both sides. So is this one. Alright, that's 3 capacitors so far reading short. Yeah, so I'm going to take away that M9 chip and see those shorts disappear. I have a feeling that the chip is the problem there because those 3 capacitors aren't connected. So generally it means the chip is shorted out somewhere. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to heat up I'm going to get my hot air gun starting to heat up, and I'm going to take that chip off. I'm going to use a nozzle on the heat gun this time. The last video I didn't have any nozzle, but I'm going to put one on just because I want the heat directed just on this chip and not everywhere else. So hot air station set to full speed, 40 degrees. And just pointing the air away from the charging port because I don't want to damage that at all. And I've actually changed this charging port. I can see whether the work on it, I've changed it in the past. So that solder is leaded solder, which means it has a lower heat melt point, sorry. So I don't want any heat on it. So that's the old IC off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that cool down a little bit, and then I'm going to test those capacitors again and make sure that short's gone before I install a new chip. Okay, so now it's cooled down a little bit. I'm just going to test this now. Same as before, one probe on ground, and I'll test the capacitors. It was these ones here that were shorted out, I believe. And this one up here. Yeah, so that short's gone. All those capacitors are reading fine now. So the problem was that M9 chip. And 90% of the time when you get that error code, the problem is that chip. At least it can be that and the charging port, but it's nearly always that chip. So I'm going to prep that area for a new charging chip and get one stuck on here now. So we're going to add some fresh flux to this area, or fresh solder to this area, and some flux to help it all flow better. I'm just going to tin the wee pads on this chip as well. And we're going to get this new chip soldered on here now. Now, just something I want to make note of that I forgot to mention while recording the video. There's a specific orientation to this chip. It has to go on the board a certain way. If you look at the old chip or this one, it's covered in flux, so it's hard to see, but if you get a new chip, you can see there's a white dot in one corner. That corner has to align with the copper arrow on the board that I'll circle here now in the video. If you solder it on the wrong way and apply power, you could damage the new chip or do irreparable damage to the board, so it's very important you put the chip on the exact orientation it's meant to be. It is it. Sorry about that. It seems to have flowed right into place. So I'm going to take the heat off now, and I'm going to put a little pressure on that when it cools, just to squeeze out some of that excess solder. Just a little bit of pressure, just letting the tweezers lean on it really. There we go. I'll just take the heat away again, let it cool. Now I'm going to get a little bit of a closer inspection on that under the magnifying glass here. So there's just a little bit of excess solder in there I need to get out. So I'm going to heat that up again, put a little bit more pressure on it with the tweezers. Right, I'm just going to work away those solder balls now and have we look at it then, see how it looks, because it's a little hard to tell the way it is. I might have to reflow it again after this, but I'll get rid of those lumps of excess solder first. There we go. So I'm going to clean this all up now and just check it under my magnifying glass, and we'll give it a wee test then. Alright, so a way to quickly test this now, we have a chip soldered on, is just to plug in our USB-C tester, and you can see it turns on now and it's reading 12 volts, which is a good sign. I'm just going to try that both ways, like that. It's turning on again, and yeah, 12 volts. That's a good sign that the M9 chip is on properly. But of course we'll need to test it again properly when we have it all together, but that's a very good indicator that we've done the job properly. So I'm just going to skip through getting this all back together, and then we can see, does it charge the battery and does the screen turn on and the console turn on and everything. So I'm just going to do that right now and fast forward that. Now I'm going to plug the battery back in and test to see does this turn on properly now. Does it charge and turn on? So 12 volts, it's taking 0.3, roughly 0.3 amps, which is normal. We get a charging symbol here, so I'd say once this battery reaches a certain voltage it will actually turn on. Let me just try and press the power button here, see does it have enough life in it yet. Nah, it's just not charged up enough, but I think that's all working fine now, so I'm going to put this all back together properly. Again, I'm just going to speed through that process because I'm sure you've seen it all before, and if you haven't, just let me know and I can make another video. Okay, now that the battery's charged a bit, it's turning on fine here now. You can see the battery's just low, but it's working completely fine. Now it's charging at nearly a full amp at 12 volts on this charger, which is fine. If it was an official Nintendo Switch charger, it would probably be about 15 volts, but this is normal for this one. And I'll just test it by turning it around just to make 100% sure. And yeah, the same again, 12 volts, just under an amp. So this was the M9 chip was the cause of this error code, and it's working fine here now. I think this switch might have other problems because I noticed the game card reader isn't fully working. See there, it says it can't be read, but I'll need to check is that the game card or is that the actual reader itself. But that's the error code sorted there now. If resetting it and all this hard reset and stuff that the Nintendo website tells you to do isn't solving the problem, it will most likely need a board repair. So I'm going to end the video there now, and thank you for watching.